Hey, spooky friends, and welcome to the Three Twisted Sisters, hosted by Britt.
Hey.
And Lexi.
And tonight we are actually launching our new installment of spooky episodes, and this one is all about the spooky states.
Ooh.
So, we drew randomly between all 50 beloved states just so it would be fair. And we drew Pennsylvania. So, right off the bat, what comes to mind when you think of Pennsylvania? Do you guys know anything about it?
Penhurst.
The Office.
Yeah.
Yeah. My best friend is from there. So that's what I think.
Yeah. Shout out.
Or Pretty Little Liars. The Amish, you know? Pennsylvania Dutch.
You little liars. We're gonna speed right past that. Like, you didn't just
You know, they go hand in hand in my head. They both know. Yeah. Guilty pleasure, that show. But so for this episode, we're going to give like a little brief history of Pennsylvania, give some like creepy little facts about it, and then we all three have a spooky story involving Pennsylvania, the beautiful state. So Pennsylvania was actually founded. So what year do you guys think it was founded, like by settlers and stuff?
1703.
1702.
It was actually
You're so fake. The bear. You're so what fucking show? The Price is Righted me. 1703. Final answer.
1702.
It was
Marvel.
actually 1681.
Ooh,
And it was founded by an English Quaker named William Penn. And he was actually granted over 45,000 square miles of land by King Charles II. So it was established 1681 and it officially became a U.S. state December 12th, 1787. So about like 106 years later. So yeah. And then I also have Pennsylvania is known as the Keystone State. And you want to know how it got that nickname?
Why? How?
Well,
Why?
let me
How?
tell you.
Coming at the mouth. Tell me, please.
So Thomas Jefferson actually named it the Keystone State because being a keystone, it is actually the main center wedge in an architectural arch. In
What?
architecture, the arches, the keystone is the center that holds it up. I couldn't say that word. Architectural.
Architectural?
Yeah, architectural.
Architectural? I had to dip into one of our weird accents we picked up all over the country. Architectural?
Literally.
Yeah.
Yes. And he
So
actually
it's the
named
center
it.
point
Yes,
of
and it's the
an arch?
keystone of the Federal Union. And it was named that by Tommy J in 1802. And also, another little fun fact about Pennsylvania, it was one of the first states to hold, well, it was one of the colonies to it was one of the first colonies to hold a witch trial. And it was about 9 years before the Salem witch trials.
Oof.
And I'll give you guys a little bit of taste on that because we want to do a whole series dedicated to different witch trials and the history of it and the hysteria. Like, is there any truth to it? Yada yada. Coming soon. So I don't want to spoil too much because this is actually a pretty interesting case in my opinion. But it was 1683. So that was the year of the witch trial. Now,
Wait, what year was it? What year was Pennsylvania established or founded? 1681.
1681.
So 2 years after it was founded, they had a witch trial.
Yep.
Pretty
And
cool.
William Penn himself was he was the governor of Pennsylvania, and he was actually the attorney general. So he was involved in it. But it's actually a cool case, so I don't want to spoil it. But
Spoil it.
Spoil it.
spoil it.
Spoil
I want to
it.
do like a deep dive of it because it's really neat. Basically,
Were
two
they found
women.
guilty?
So actually, both women, it's kind of, let me just tell you the story. So they were both accused of being witches because there was a lot of cows were producing low amounts of milk. A lot of the livestock were getting sick, dying off. People were accusing them of mutilating animals and things like that to get back at their neighbors. So in one of the court documents and in actually a book about William Penn is the line of questioning that he had with one of the accused women. And he asked the woman straight out, "Art thou a witch?" Which she denied. And then he said, "Hast thou ever ridden through the air on a broomstick?" And she was reported to be extremely confused by this line of questioning. And he said, "Well, I know of no law against it." So basically, the women were not found guilty and handled out a lot like the Salem, Massachusetts colony was a few years later, where it was literally like boom, 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 boom. We're killing these people. The women were just to live with the with like the trademark of a witch. So they were branded witches for the rest of their life. But they weren't actually convicted of anything, which I thought was kind of cool. But like I said, I want to dive deeper into it because it's really interesting to me, and it's known as the Witch of Ridley Creek. If our listeners want to dive into the story ahead of time, but yeah,
That's kind of really cool.
Yeah, it is.
mm-hmm. Yep. And he was very much like, if there wasn't solid proof, then there like it wasn't convictable. So it was pretty, I don't know, that was kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how you could even, like, how could you even, unless you had an eyewitness watching them mutilate and taint the cows and the milk.
I don't. Well, we'll dive into the Salem witch trials and see how that.
No, I know.
Flew out. My God,
Yeah.
you're a witch. I don't like you today. You're a witch.
Oh my God.
Literally, the
Yeah.
worst.
So another thing, I said I knew about Pennsylvania is the Amish and the Pennsylvania Dutch, and now I don't know much at all. Like, I'm definitely not an expert. I know the Pennsylvania Dutch were German immigrants, and they immigrated to Pennsylvania around like the 1750s. And the Amish actually originated from a very what's it called? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. Conservative Anabaptist religion in Switzerland. So they actually immigrated to not just Pennsylvania, but the Great Plains in general. They're also known as the Plain people. Not like, y'all motherfuckers are plain as fuck. Like, switch up them dives, motherfucker.
I was thinking like an airplane.
Oh!
Although they would never use one.
No. But they're like as the Great Plains. So they lived in the plains, basically. That's where they migrated or immigrated.
Weren't that like
migrated?
Aren't some of the Amish people like mobsters? Or weren't they?
What?
There's like, isn't there like a show about that?
There
I mean,
is.
am I
So,
right?
They
Okay,
ride
you know you've heard-
horsages. Why would they be mobsters?
What?
They ride horsages. Why would they be mobsters?
That's
horsages.
Like the horse carriage?
Horse.
That is not called a horsages.
Let's
They
make a
ride those
compound word.
horsages.
New
The
word,
horse-
everybody.
A
Let's
horse
redo
and
that.
carriage?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
something
we
like
redo
that.
No.
I know.
No, so I mean, I don't know a lot about the Amish either, but I do remember like distinctly being like, "Oh yeah, the Amish they're like mobs or like mafia bosses or something."
Right.
Have you heard that?
I know that show was on Discovery Channel and it ran for like 2 or 3 years, but it was the Amish Mafia, I think is what it's called. But the only run-ins I've had with the Amish, unfortunately, because I've always heard that they have fantastic food and their like furniture and things. It's just it's amazing work. But was from this show that my husband and I loved, which was not putting them in the best light. It was on Cinemax. If you guys haven't seen it, Banshee. It has a few seasons and it was really fun. But they show like the Amish dude. He's actually not a part of the Amish community anymore. He was excommunicated because he became like a mob man. But it was a really cool show.
Can you join? Yeah, can you join them?
The only thing I know about is breaking Amish. So
But, like,
it's like,
you know,
okay, it's like an actual show. I know so much about this. I saw like a 12-minute clip on Facebook. You know, like on Facebook where you can like see episodes or like snippets of TV shows and stuff. Okay, so I just get stuck looking at those. And one
All
of
the
them
time.
was like I think it's called Breaking Amish, but it's these two like Amish teenagers and they're still like in their like full outfits and everything. So I don't think they've like been excommunicated, but they go to town and they go to a tattoo shop because they both want a piercing, but they have to be able to hide it from their parents, right? So one of the girls gets like her cartilage pierced so she can hide it under her bonnet, and then the other one gets her belly button pierced. And it's just like, yeah, it's intense. And the girl that gets her cartilage pierced, she's like, "Oh, that didn't even hurt at all. Like I didn't even notice it." And so she's like telling her friend, like, "It didn't even hurt at all. I didn't even notice it. Like you're fine." And you know how dramatic those little clips are, or like those like reality shows where it's like the tattoo
top model.
the tattoo artist is like sanitizing the needle, and then it goes to her, and she's like, "Oh!" And then it like goes back, and she's like moving the needle, and then it goes back to her, and she's like, "Ah!" You know, when it's like so dramatic, which I love for that. But she got her belly button pierced, and yeah, she was freaking out. The shit hurted.
Mine hurted too.
I don't
My
remember
best
mine
friend
hurting.
from Pennsylvania did mine. I was like swatting her hands. She's like, "Brittany, stop." I'm like, "Okay."
I got mine done. I had a friend of mine do mine too. I was on my bed in my room. I was like 18 or 19, and she took a needle and
Mine was post-pandemic. I'm gonna just say I was not
I went to a shop.
no boring.
responsible.
You did it the right way.
You did. You did.
Yeah.
So I
Interesting.
actually looked it up. They first of all, the Amish bitches, they don't seek to add people to their numbers. They don't seek to add people to their community. But you can join, or it's possible for you to join through conversion and convincement. So, like,
So they are accepting
not down.
applications.
So you have to convince them.
Yes, and you have to be you have to go through like some sort of conversion into their lifestyle.
They do,
So
they like throw you in fire. That was so mean.
Yeah, they throw you in fire. No, they're probably like, "Do you know how to work like a hammer and a nail?" And
Yeah.
you're like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, bye."
Can you do the butter?
What was that?
Conditioning?
What
Can
was
you
that
churn the
motion?
butter? Can you turn that butter
This
off?
is a friendly family show.
No, it is not.
Is it? Is it?
Wait, but
Uh,
do they have air conditioning?
No, they don't use any electronics. Well,
no,
I know
it's completely
I
So
know
winters
certain
are like winter.
Yeah, I know certain
winter.
colonies, compounds. I don't know what they're called, but I know that certain like
Communities?
groups of them, communities, use like minimal electronics. Some of them do use some, but they mostly don't.
Like,
I don't know what show
what's
I heard that
considered
from.
minimal, like a TV. And
Not like
Oh,
a TV,
absolutely
but like
not. I don't think.
no,
Like,
but like I know like some of them use like
running water.
I don't
like
think so.
tractors, like certain things. They'll use like a few of like new age
Right,
stuff,
to
but they
help
don't
with
have
the-
but they don't have
like
An oven?
it's like something that will help promote
Do they have
the
ovens?
lifestyle they're already
I'm
living.
sure they don't have like a brand new oven Samsung, but they have like, I mean, how do you think people cooked food before ovens?
Like pot?
Like an oven.
Yeah,
Like a
like
stone
a.
brick oven.
I don't think they have brick ovens in their houses. I think they probably have like a hot.
Like a pizza brick oven.
They're from Italia.
I didn't say they were making authentic Italian brick oven pizza.
Brick oven, I automatically think, first of all, huge. Second of all, Italy or Sicily or something like that, you know?
brick oven in Amish land.
Shut the fuck up.
Boom. Google. Yeah, come on.
Send it to me. I want to see.
It's Wikipedia though.
It's not Wikipedia. I would never.
Bullshit.
Yeah, see? Like, guys, like, olden time.
Yes, like a fucking pot. How did she cook in Outlander? She had a fucking pot and she has some hot flame under. I can't see.
It says brick. You're not going to be able to see. Yeah. I'll just screenshot it and send it to you.
Thank
Viewers and listeners, I found it. And you can easily find it just by typing in brick oven Amish. And it'll come up brick oven in Amish land.
I know that more people than just Italians use brick ovens. Being not just typecasting brick ovens here.
But that's my extent on Amish. Is a little clip that I saw on Facebook Watch or whatever they call it, and overhearing someone say that Amish were like mafia people. That's all I know.
What would they have? What would they be like a mafia about? Like,
well, because they still like they buy and sell stuff, so they still need money. But I mean, from what I remember hearing, is they'll when they excommunicate their children, they will never speak to them again. They won't even look at them. So yeah, we don't actually know a lot about the Amish outside of reality TV. But yeah.
Or just our own brains.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's not all that Pennsylvania is known for. So when we pulled Pennsylvania, I was like, crap, I don't know anything about that state other than Pennhurst. So and when we drove through it for like a second. So I don't really know a lot about it, but I wanted to know because every state has like a state monster or like their folk legend monster, creature, whatever it is. So Pennsylvania's is called the squonk.
The cutie.
The squonk. So the squonk actually has a very sad life. He's like a warthog pig, but his body is like very wrinkly and covered in warts, like literally. And he's so ashamed of his ugly self that he's like depressed and he cries all the time. So he's often heard like wailing, like And there's YouTube videos of the sound of a squonk.
I feel you squawking.
It will avoid like the rivers and the waterways of Pennsylvania, because when it sees its reflection, it just breaks down in tears.
Oh my god.
But there's squonk,
That's so sad.
there's squonk hunters, which know how to track a squonk because of the trail of trail of tears.
Wait,
But
Oh my.
yeah, but like the tear trail that they leave. Yeah.
Oh.
And there's a story of a man who caught a squonk. Okay.
wait, squonks are real?
I mean, it's
They're cryptids.
yeah, they're cryptids. So
Like-
it's like
Bigfoot.
so someone
Mothman.
a man caught a squonk in a like a burlap sack, and he's carrying it home, and the whole time it's wailing, it's crying, it's like oh, like let me go.
Why would you take me? I'm so ugly.
But
my
the
God.
thing that happens is when they get so overcome with emotion, they will melt into a puddle of their own tears. Yeah. So when he got home and he's like, everyone, look at the squonk, he opens it and it's like a bubbling puddle of tears. Yeah. And you guys want to see what the squonk looks like?
That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
The squonk.
Ew.
The squonk. And yeah, so
What a
they
cutie.
are this little picture I pulled up says squonks are slowest on moonlit nights as they try to avoid seeing their ugly appearance in any illuminated bodies of water. In addition to warts and moles, one can track a squonk by its tear-stained trails because the animal is constantly weeping. So basically exactly what I said. But
Basically
also
exactly what I said.
yeah, I already
Exactly
said
what I
that.
said.
So thanks. But certain things that I was reading about it is that Pennsylvanians are super like salty that that's their state monster, because they feel like they have so many other like cryptids or folk legend creatures that they would prefer to have over the squonk, which just adds to
Adds to his fucking
sadness.
laundry list of
Like,
reasons.
Gosh,
Fucking sad.
even the people occupying the state he is from
He's like crying.
don't
about,
accept
he's
him.
like crying about that too.
He's like, he's sitting there and he's like, he hears our podcast and he's like, oh no, more.
You poor thing.
Yeah,
That's
so
the saddest cryptid.
if you want to, it's probably not. We'll get into
I
all the other
know.
ones, but it is a very pathetic one. Pretty sad. So there are squonk hunters. Okay, fun facts about Pennsylvania. And like Brittany said, her really good friend is from Pennsylvania. So I was like, what do you think about the squonk? And what did she say?
She was like, it's more of like a northern PA thing. She heard about it when she was a kid, like up in the Poconos, I guess. And she was like, doesn't he cry all the time? Yes, he fucking does. He does.
Oh, poor little homie. So that is the story of the squonk. And
Nice.
he, comes out. So go catch one and try to get a picture before he melts into his
Imagine
bubbling
like a scary
tears.
movie of the squonks.
The Squonk's Revenge. TM.
Ooh. Yeah.
Coming soon to a theater near you. Yeah, so
This go-
poor, poor thing. And there's a lot other like really creepy drawings, like because he goes back, you know, they go way back. And so there's like drawings of him from like long time ago. And some of like old timey drawings are like damn, you didn't have to go that hard on that person. And so that's what the squonk. That was like a
gotta look him up.
cute-ish picture I found. There's some sketchy ones too. But
Poor
yeah, so
baby.
that is the squonk, the national monster of Pennsylvania.
Alrighty, so I'll go into my story next. It is based in Western Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh.
Were you gonna say West Philadelphia?
Yes, I
Born and
was.
Born and raised.
West Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yeah, I kind of saw that, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my bad. And this home is known as the house the devil built,
Ew.
or the Congolier Mansion. So let me give you guys a little bit of history on this. Now, this house is no longer standing. They actually built a road on it. Its original address was 1129 Ridge Avenue. So let's jump in. 1860s. Alrighty, so this particular address has been home to lots of very horrific things. So let me start off right off the bat. 1860s. The Congoliers, Charles and Lydia, built and moved into a beautiful mansion in western Pennsylvania with their maid Essie. One night, settle in. One night, Lydia finds Charles and Essie in cahoots with each other, and Lydia fucking loses it. She loses her goddamn mind, okay? She brutally murders both Charles and Essie and was found. I'm not even there yet. She was found 2 days later, sitting on her porch in a rocking chair with Essie's head on her lap. Fast forward.
No.
Yeah. Fast forward a little bit, the 1890s, a railroad company rented the home as lodging for their workers. Now, the railroad company had experienced different like subtle hauntings of this house. They were all pretty scared of it. And of the time that the railroad was actually the company was actually living there and all of that, there were 2 unexplained deaths that occurred in the basement. So there's already been 4 fucking deaths in this home in 30 years. Alrighty, so let's fast forward 10 years to the year 1900, when German Dr. Adolf, pardon my English, Brune Richter, buys the home. And he actually converts it into his very own doctor's office. Now, he was known as being a bit of a recluse, a bit of a creep. And so one evening, let me flip my notes, sorry. One evening, the authorities were alerted because the neighbors had heard a woman screaming bloody murder from this fucking doctor's house. So they rush over, and what do they find? Not the doctor. He disappeared and was never seen again. Now for
What
the
the
woman
heck?
screaming, yes. Now for the woman screaming, her decapitated body was found on the first floor. Her other body parts and head were discovered in the mansion's cellar, basement.
Wait, how did she scream?
While he was killing her.
Oh, okay, got it. I thought he fleeted, she screamed. I'm caught up.
Yes, you got this. You got it, girl. So not only was this woman completely mutilated and murdered, the doctor had a Frankenstein-esque laboratory within his cellar, within the basement, that had obvious occult experimentations and devices. So the woman's head was found in one of his most treasured inventions, and it was a device that could keep a person's brain alive, not dead, after decapitation. Fucking imagine. Can you imagine? It just reminds me of.
Kept the brain alive.
So somehow he had her head in this invention that, although it was away from her body, he somehow made it to where her consciousness, her brain was still alive.
No freaking way.
So.
No way.
So, what's interesting about this location is that Thomas Edison actually held a scientific experiment on this property with one of his theoretical inventions, a la like the EVP devices, spirit boxes, things that we use present day to communicate. Um, and in 1927, there was a natural gas tank that burst. The home blew up. The house was completely destroyed. Over 21 people were killed. The road was built over the site, and it was done. The house was gone. Now, what if I were to tell you that there is literally no evidence to any of that?
I would believe you because that's insane.
So, what's crazy is that the true facts of the house the devil built is that the home actually did suffer from a gas leak, an explosion that killed a young girl. The town and house was completely destroyed, and there was a road built over it. The legend has been completely debunked by historians recently, like within the last 50 years or so. But what's wild is that Pittsburgh has held on to this folklore for fucking like with a chokehold that this is true. But what's even neater is that this was the inspiration for American Horror Story Murder House season 1 with the mad scientist with Jessica Lange murdering her husband and the maid. So it's one of the most famous haunted house stories that actually has no truth to it.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Now,
weird.
I was thinking, I was like, okay, if they're saying Dr. Adolf whatever, German doctor, was doing all these horrific things in this home around the 1900s, then that folklore probably came not too long. I mean, like 45 years later was World War II, Adolf Hitler. I just kind of think there might be a little correlation there as far as like Germans, bad, evil, whatever, kind of a correlation. The Thomas Edison thing was really crazy because he actually did have an invention that because he was very interested in that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that is the house the devil built in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I mean, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the west side of Pennsylvania.
That's crazy. Yeah, that I was like baloney that this doctor kept her fucking brain alive. Like,
it's like the most nightmarish thing that you could imagine.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because then when you were like, how is she screaming? Because that would take a lot of time for him to move all of her body parts all over the place.
Unless he just frantically chased her around the house.
No,
but he would have had to put her head into that machine. So it's like, was she screaming in the machine still?
God. Oh God.
Yeah, let's just put a
brain
pin in
awake,
that.
you can feel it still, essentially, right?
Well, yeah, like if you lose a limb, you can still have like the phantom pain. So imagine your whole body. But that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah. So it's known as America's most haunted house, but it doesn't exist. It literally is just folklore. So you're welcome.
Thanks for that. Nightmares tonight. Jeez.
Well, I was researching it and I was like, what the fuck? And it was crazy because I was like, this sounds so familiar. And then I get to the, the conclusion of actually none of this was real.
That's so rude. What a long story. Well, that was terrifying. Unfortunately,
it's a fun campfire story.
Yeah, no. Can you imagine telling like a group of kids that around the campfire?
Teenagers?
Yeah, teenagers.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Yikes. But mine is real and just as, maybe not just as demented, but it's pretty messed up. So it's about Pinhurst. So if you guys don't know, Pinhurst, it's closed now unless you're like doing paranormal investigations or facility tours. But when it opened in 1908, it opened as a school for like mentally handicapped people, or children mostly, but it did take all ages. So it closed down finally in 1987. And throughout that time that it was open, it had, oops, sorry, like 10,500, 10,600 clients or patients. Patients is the right word. So Penhurst, it opened up at the time in 1908. There was really no studies or research at all into mental disabilities. So no matter what scope of it, disability you had, the plan at that time was not to go to therapy and um, learn new ways to overcome the disability, but it was to lock your family member up away from society because um, they were like an embarrassment to your family. So
Ugh.
there was tons of these around the entire country. And a lot of them have similar stories to Pinhurst, but what makes Pinhurst so popular is the size of it, but also what happened in it. So Pinhurst itself is humongous. There's tons of tons and tons of ghost paranormal teams have gone and investigated it. Probably the most like well-known one is when Ghost Adventures went. It was one of their early seasons, and it's a really good episode. They catch some good stuff, even in the interview process. I'll use any excuse I can to bring up Ghost Adventures. You guys already know that. But it is a good episode. But some of the horrors that happened at Pinhurst. Um, so yikes. In the 70s, there was a documentary made about it. So a man went in and kind of did a 5-episode documentary about Pinhurst and what was happening inside of it. And that started the shutdown process of Pinhurst, which then actually happened in 87. And the only positive spin on it, not the only, but the biggest positive spin on Pinhurst itself is that the closing of it and this whole exposure TV series or 5-episode series was that it then shot the United States of America into insane development into mental health research. So
Oh.
that's like the best positive spin that you can come about it is that they saw the horrific things that were happening there, and that pushed everyone to start really researching it and how can we help these people and how can we not treat them the way that they were treated here. So Pinhurst itself, it had at the time that they went and did the exposure show, there was like 2,600 people there at the time, patients there. It was almost 2,800 people at the time. So
Holy
most of them
crap.
were children.
Oh my
The
gosh.
Yeah, the saddest thing is that they only had, oh, it's like so infuriating. For those almost 2,800 patients, they had 9 doctors and 11 teachers.
Holy
And
shit.
none of the doctors and none of the teachers had any prior experience or education with mental health and mental disabilities.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, ooh, there was, I mean, the documentary itself is just so intense. You can still watch it. So, yeah, 9 doctors and 11 teachers to handle almost 2,800 patients altogether, and most of them were children. So when the team came in, and filmed it, some of the scary things that they were seeing was not only like insane amount of restraints used on their patients, but also just like the rocking back and forth, the amount of people shoved into small areas, and the signs of abuse, the signs of neglect. There was one point where the guy goes into a room with a bunch of children aging from like like 4 years old to like 11 years old, let's say, like around there. It was like a smaller age group of children. And a lot of them weren't walking, they were crawling. And these are like 5,
Oh
6,
my
7, 8-year
God.
olds that aren't walking. They're like crawling around. And he's asking them like, why aren't they walking? Is that part of their disability? And the person that is being interviewed is like, no, we just don't have enough staff to teach them how to walk. They didn't have enough staff to bring out the mats to teach the children how to walk.
I'm
So
gonna
some of these
cry.
children were like 5, 6, 7 years old, didn't learn how to walk.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's some like crazy stuff. The whole site itself is underneath it has tons of underground tunnels that connect all of the different like sanctions. So originally Penhurst, or what it was supposed to be, was a school. So it was supposed to help educate these, the idea of it was to educate their patients so that they could eventually live out in the real world amongst, you know, civilians in a civilized manner. That very rarely happened. Out of the amount of people that were put into that school, only about 200 of the patients actually received any kind of art, education, any kind of teaching. Only 200 out of all of those 10,000
Jesus.
patients. Yeah.
Holy crap.
And a lot of them, because there wasn't just like mentally handicapped people, it was also, they had different areas of it that held like inmates, you know, clinically insane people, but some of them had high IQs. So they were incredibly high functioning, and they would be at different dorms until they caused like mischief. And they would have different sections, right? So this was like high functioning, and then they considered the other part of the floor to be low functioning, and they called it like the low functioning the punishment ward.
Oh
So if
my
you
God.
it up in the high functioning ones, and even though you had a high IQ and you were high functioning, as punishment you would go down to the low functioning wards, where they were incredibly like violent. They, most of them couldn't speak, a lot of them couldn't walk properly. I mean, you're thinking of like the saddest place where people are like banging their head up against brick walls.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, it's
What's that one movie? It kind of reminds me of the news reporter going in there. Funny enough, American Horror Story Asylum, when Lana
of course.
breaks in and she gets the footage, but Jessica Lange was in another movie. Oh gosh, I forgot what it was called. That had a similar scene where reporters were in the insane asylum and filming it, and it was just
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God.
the patients there experienced so much abuse and neglect. And like the worst part about it,
Francis Farmer. Ugh.
so the
Sorry.
worst part about it, in my opinion, well, not the worst, but there, it's awful. But some of the children, or even teenagers or young adults, a lot of times when you're dealing with people that have like a mental disability or mental handicap, and they're low functioning or whatever, I don't even know if that's like a proper term, I wouldn't use it, but they can't speak, they're nonverbal, they'll do other things. They'll hit, they'll like bang on the table, and they'll bite. So a lot of times these children wanted to not be restrained, they wanted to move, they wanted to learn, and they weren't able to, so they would bite. And after they would give a warning, they would say, okay, that's one bite, do it again, and you're going to get in trouble. And on the second or sometimes third attack of a child biting, they would be taken downstairs to the dentist office, and all of their teeth were removed. So
Oh my
hundreds, if
God.
That
not
is so bad.
hundreds, if not thousands of patients had all of their teeth removed. Yeah.
Children.
And
Oh my God.
yeah. And so there was so
I
many
can't
deaths.
even
There was
fathom that.
so many deaths that happened there. There's not even a legitimate total because I mean, I don't want to be like they were a crooked facility, although there were obviously some crooked shit going on there, but they were also completely overwhelmed because they were state run. So they didn't have a say in how many like they could occupy. And
That
they were very underfunded, so they couldn't afford to get enough people to help all of these patients. So there was a lot of like unaccounted for deaths. And they assume that almost half of the people that the patients that were there were died from there. They were either suicide, murder, or unknown. They also had some runaways, and they did have a very small amount that were able to be released back into the world. So that's yikes. But they also experience obviously like some serious attacks as well as rapes. Now you would think like, oh my gosh, like this is awful. But it wasn't just patient on patient. Obviously, it was staff on patient too, which is like despicable and infuriating. So that happened as well. A lot of undocumented, horrific things happened there. So of course, it is like one of the most prevalent haunted locations in the country. A lot of people go there and they experience so many different things. They hear children playing and different things like that all the time. But the biggest thing was, yeah, the neglect, the abuse, the malpractice. The list, it really goes on. What pissed me off really bad was like that they wouldn't teach them how to talk or walk or anything.
walk.
Yeah. And so there are still some people that are alive to this day that were patients at Penhurst. And I did hear an interview from one of them, and she said that she didn't hate her time at Penhurst. She was glad to leave. The thing that she hated the most was the restraints and when she would be locked in a room by herself. And she was a patient that would hit her head up against the wall because they wouldn't listen to her unless she like hurt herself. So it's very, very horrific. That is a very summed up version. There's so much detail I can go into Penhurst. I mean, all of the different like dorms, or I don't know what they call them specifically, but all the different little areas. Like one of the most haunted parts of Penhurst is the Quaker dorm. That's what it was called. They're all labeled different things, but it also does have the tunnels underneath it. And the owners of it now, or I'm assuming it's still the owners now, were saying that that is the most active place in the entire establishment, and especially the tunnels that go underneath it. So it's a very.
Did they say why, or just like what
because
was
that
held
was
there?
the most violent patients.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So, and the thing is you don't know if the violent ones were quote low functioning or high functioning. And what really bothered me was when they were talking about this particular like criminal who was his IQ was like 120. So he was completely well aware, and he was incredibly cruel to the other patients there. And a lot of times the children would get in trouble because they were acting out or they attacked someone. But a lot of times it was because they were being bullied and they were attacking the bullies. Well, the bullies had higher IQs. So they would be like, no, I didn't do anything. They just attacked me out of nowhere. And then they were punished for no reason or for defending themselves.
So if this documentary came out in the 70s, why did it take 15 or 16 years to close this? Like, that's just baffling.
Because it took a lot of time to relocate and figure out what they were going to do with their patients. But they were under a lot of scrutiny at that time, a lot of public scrutiny. This was like the huge movement that it was really what sparked the huge movement into the mental health research.
Thank God.
So during that time, they were really trying to figure out what they could even do about it.
So
but it wasn't that wasn't the only like asylum in the country. There was thousands of other ones. So
yeah,
you're looking at Penhurst and you're like, oh man, this is really bad. What are all the other ones like? Literally the exact same. So it's
what were the age ranges for the patients? Did they go into
Oh, I mean, they had
specifics, like
like
the
babies.
youngest?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
Up until, adults. So the majority of them were children, but the age ranges went all over the place.
yuck.
Yeah, Pinhurst. So unfortunately, that is what is buried in my brain when I think of Pennsylvania. But
Yeah.
it's the best way that you can look at it is like at least the reporter went in and filmed everything and brought to light what was actually happening.
Yeah.
And that sparked some of the most amazing research that we have now. And
Yeah.
it's just, oh, hello.
Hmm.
It's awful. So that is the unfortunate story of Pinhurst. And if you do want to do any kind of like paranormal investigating, you can just go to their website, just Google Pinhurst Asylum, and their website will come up and you can book paranormal tours and also investigations.
Hmm.
Yeah. And they also do like haunted Halloween stuff too, I think.
Oh my gosh,
I
I don't like
know.
that.
Like I don't like the whole hype around it, but
It's gotta be a while ago though. Like, think
It
about
would
it.
be. It would be, but I just like, I don't know. At that particular place, that's so like heavy.
but yeah, that was Pinhurst. So Lexi, what do you got for us today?
Gettysburg.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So, mine is about the Farnsworth Inn in Gettysburg. And they used it in the Gettysburg Battle. But little history, it's been around since like 1810. It's a bed and breakfast now to this day.
Holy moly.
Really?
And it's still like its original structure.
That's cool.
So that's pretty cool. And people can stay and sleep there. And, like,
Does
they,
it
like,
still
do-
have bullets in the walls?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? So, yeah, that's so cool.
People can like tour it and see how like spooky it is. So that's kind of cool.
I'd like to go there. Now that
Yeah.
even though Gettysburg was so horrible,
Mhm.
it's a different level for me.
It's like keeping its historical
Significance?
yeah, like
So,
it's keeping it
guests have said that like when they're walking in the hallways, it feels like there's like army men like walking behind them because it was used in the battle. So and then they'll like look to see and like there's nothing.
Ooh.
It was the Confederates that were there, right?
Yes, it was the Confederates. They had like snipers in the attic, and then they used the rest of it for like this wounded. That makes sense. Like a little hospital, and for lodging, obviously. But in like day 3, the Union stormed in there and just like murdered all of them.
Oof. So who
Yikes.
actually won the Battle of Gettysburg?
So it was actually the Union, and there was about like 51,000 casualties. It's like
Holy shit.
quite a bit of blood. Like it was like intense because it was 3 days. Like it was 3 days long. So it was like,
Yeah.
It was like the bloodiest battle of the war, I think.
yeah.
It's like the bloodiest like chunk of land in all of the United States. That's like what it's known. Most casualties per square foot, or sorry, not to.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And then some of the hauntings are like some of the soldiers, like one that's very well known and like people see it very consistently is this like younger man like still in his sniper post up in the attic.
Aw.
And I think they took in a psychic one time to try to get to tell the spirit like you can fly, and he just didn't want to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's like not leaving his post.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And like they
You'd
brought
be like,
a
sir, it's done.
Yeah.
and then there's this they say that they seen like this lady over by like the shelving because they think she used to be like either a housemaid or a mistress.
Oh.
Like the head housemaid. But they see her in like this 1800s outfit, and she's like standing over by like where they have like shelves and all their storage. And like,
Dang.
yeah.
Ooh.
People like see her walking around too.
Spooky.
Yikes.
Would you guys stay at the inn?
Oh yeah.
I'm
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I might. That
Yeah.
might be cool.
I would
I
visit,
definitely.
but I wouldn't
Yeah.
stay the night.
Oh.
You scaredy cat.
100%.
Yeah. I would.
I would try. I would try it.
I'm sure it would be fine. Famous
Mhm.
last words.
It
Yeah.
was fine. It was indeed not fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, I think that would be interesting to go there.
I didn't like talking to a soldier back then.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. The sun was setting. I turned on the light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that in October we should take a trip and go stay at the Gettysburg and the Farnsworth.
That would be kind of cool.
I
Instead,
know.
why don't we go and stay somewhere in Savannah?
Yeah, Savannah would be cool too. But we're not talking about Georgia today, Brittany. We're talking about Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I gotta make
But
it
it
up
would be
there
cool.
anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would be cool. Would you stay the night if we went up there? Yes, you would.
You absolutely would.
Yeah, we
What
would
if
give
we-
you no choice.
God, not my choice.
We're
What if
like
we
tying
stayed-
you up like yeah.
We stayed in a haunted location and did a podcast from it.
That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
Mhm.
Camera
Like a
flips-
follow up
Camera
to
flips over.
yeah.
Yeah.
And transition time.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, Twisted listeners, for tuning in. We all very much appreciate it. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We're really excited about this Spooky State series, and we would love to hear if you guys have any personal encounters or spooky things. Definitely send them our way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And even if you know of like the spookiest place in your state that you want us to talk about, make sure you let us know so that we don't miss out on that one. And if we missed any good ones from Pennsylvania, let us know. You can follow us on TikTok or Instagram at _3 Twisted Sisters. If you're not watching this on YouTube, our YouTube is 3 Twisted Sisters Podcast. You can also send us an email to our email at 3 Twisted Sisters Podcast @gmail.com. We want to hear your stories and we want to know what you think about our new series, our Spooky States. So let us know.
Alrighty, so we hope you guys had a great week and you have a wonderful weekend. Other than that, take care and stay
Twisted.
twisted. Bye.
Bye.